In today's video I'm going to be looking at this plastic cube full of old electronic stuff that I kept. I'm actually after an LCD panel meter that I made from an electronic project a long time ago, probably in the early 90s or something. At least made the circuit board for it, because I've got some later ones from silicon chips. I want to have a look at this old one. I can't remember which electronics magazine it came from, either ETI or EA, I guess, Electronics Australia or Electronics Today International. And this is a whole lot of other bits and pieces that I built over the years, and things like microphones and stuff I kept that might be useful. So I might go through this and actually have a look and see what's in here. And our first item is this. This was a Dick Smith kit by the look of it. It's got DSC on the power meter. I think this is Australian Electronics Monthly. What are these? Some sort of adjustable pots on the back by the look of it. Not sure if it was originally meant to be like that. I think this is, yeah, power meter. What an appliance was actually consuming. Something you can buy a little thing off eBay or something these days for next to nothing, but in those days I think this had some specialised IC in it. Oh, poor old screws are going rusty. And I don't think it was real cheap, but this was a handy thing to have from time to time. Do I have to lift the cord up? I think it's clamped to the circuit board. I don't think I've ever looked at this since it was originally built. Dick Smith ZA 1544. It looks like those pots came with the kit. I was almost wondering if I'd use some old TV ones or something. Oh yeah, it's got that specialised, what is it, LM394? Was that the specialised? Is that it? There's not really much in it. I think that was it though, that LM394 CHIC and the little old, almost a TA5, I forget what those cases are called, 6 pins. Quite like the way they've done it so that the power point just wires straight in with wire links. And it's probably got a resistor or something that develops a voltage or something that it goes across. Even the meter's screwed to the circuit board, so I must admit that's quite a nicely designed construction project, that one. Old Dick Smith zippy box. Cat H2851, made in Hong Kong. So that's how old that is. But yeah, every project just about in those days was built in one of these. Looks like I originally had a hole there for something and blocked it off with some black sticky tape. There's not actually much in that. I actually thought that was a bit more complicated, but one of the old Clipsal vertical power points, which you didn't see a lot of. It looks like I've written low and high on the switch, pointing to the arrow, or pointing to the meter which scale, and that's just on and off, I guess the load on and off maybe. So yeah, I did use that a few times to test a few things just to see what they were drawing. I mean, obviously most of the time you just go by the current. That's another electronics project, which was like a power relay. This was a handy thing back in the day because you could, I believe, when you turned the first device on, the master, and that drew a current, that would trigger a relay in there which would switch your second thing on. I guess we could even plug it in, and that's one of those later fuse holders, yeah, because they changed those to those safety ones. I was actually looking for one of those the other day, but I probably shouldn't pinch it out of this. So I think if we put some sort of load, I might even use the heater. Nothing's happening. First thing, I better switch the bench on because I've got the bench turned off. That won't help. Oh yeah, I've got the heater in there. Pulling a current in the master one, it turns the slave one on. If I remove that, we've just got power to the master. That was back in the days when you had things where you wanted to turn an amplifier on and have some other component like your radio come on or something. Quite a handy device once upon a time. I also built my own little thing so that you could plug it into off-peak power point and normal power point, and it would automatically switch whatever was plugged into the power point between those things. I added that up until fairly recently. I ended up just throwing it out, I think, which I probably shouldn't have done, since I made a little circuit board for it and everything, and a little transformer and relay, and I think it was just a transformer. When the off-peak came on, it would run the relay and that would switch your output. Probably highly illegal for all I know, but it was a good way to make use of off-peak, because you never remember what times it even ran half the time. And that's the catalogue. Is it another Dick Smith box or not? AD catalogue number something or other. That's a slightly different box, less little things in it. And it's actually a triac by the look of it. Was it were they a TOP 10 or something? Looks like it's got a varistor there to protect it, so it doesn't get blown up, and we've got a bunch of diodes, an inductor, maybe just to reduce RF or something from that triac, I assume it is. I do have this unplugged though. I don't go touching heat sinks and anything like this with the power on, that's for sure. So quite a basic little thing, and I think, are they neons or LEDs? They look like they're probably wired straight to the mains, yeah, active and neutral, which would be going up to this socket. Yeah, looks like there's two different. I wonder if that chain of diodes has something to do with it detecting. But yeah, I don't think I ever used that an awful lot, but it was one of those sort of things that became obsolete as more things became remote controlled and everything. I even had a VCR that I modified so that when you turn the VCR on, it actually put one of these sort of sockets, or one of the chassis mount ones or whatever, in the back of it, and a relay, so when the VCR came on, it actually turned the TV on, because I was just using an old non-remote TV back then. And there really wasn't much point having a remote TV if you've got it hooked to the, it was only a bedroom one with headphones, so I didn't need the volume, didn't need to do the power, didn't need to change any channels because it was always on the VCR, and just had the VCR, had the remote control to change the channels or play a tape or fast forward or anything like that. So that's the kind of thing we had to do back in the day before everything had remotes and stuff. And that I was going to use for something, digital access keypad. I'm not exactly sure what I bought that for now, but it's still brand new and never got used for whatever it was. Where did that come from? I'm not even sure whether it was JK or something, or Wagner or someone. But brand new, new old stock. Never got used. Door strike, alarm control. Yeah, I can't actually, I was going to make something out of it. It just looks like it's actually got an LED above it to light the keypad, which is nice. And you're going to take a couple of those out to look inside, so I don't think I'll bother. It's got a few LED indicators. Membrane keyboard. I think you could just program this to have any code you wanted and use it to access things or turn alarms off or something like that. But you always end up with a few of these things that you buy for some little project and never get around to using it because something else comes up. And that's the old colour video photo from, I think that was a silicon chip in big letters on the front of it. Dick Smith Electronics kit, K5410, that needs a clean. Oh, there's a little paintbrush. Get this dust off it. And I think that just faded across the screen here, right to left, left to right. That was what I remember it doing. It was actually kind of a good little video effects generator in those days if you didn't want to buy what was basically professional equipment that the people that edited videos for a living used to do. Does it have a silicon chip date on this? It doesn't. I think this was early 90s, I seem to remember. That would have been the last time I would have done anything like that, I think. External input, video in, video out. External input. I think, I'll get a feeling you might have been able to control the wipe or something, or the fade or wipe or whatever it was. I think it would fade to black and also wipe across the screen from whatever the image was to black. But I did use that a little bit a long time ago. And I must admit I forgot I even still own this until I dug this crate has been sitting on a shelf up high in the garage for a long time, and I pulled it out the other day and I thought, oh, there's that thing. So we've got CD4066, which I think is a switching CMOS chip, and a 4030. Not a lot else, a few transistors and bits and pieces, but from memory that did a pretty good job. I guess I should hook that up again sometime and try it out just for a bit of old school basic video effects, because again there was no computers, well there were computers, but no computers to do sort of easy video editing and stuff like you can these days. And yeah, back then I don't think I was even really into computers that much. I had used the earlier ones, and then sort of it was just early DOS machines and stuff which weren't much use for anything. I mean, you could use Amigas and all that, but again I think it was easier just to build something like this sometimes and just do your editing and tidy a few things up like that. A good way to get rid of some mix, you know, we had all these videotapes with random stuff on them. You could sort of tidy them up and edit programs down, or your own footage, camcorder footage or anything, and get rid of the sort of mess that you had. Edit it down to some shorter videos. Of course the problem was second generation video recording was never very good anyway. If it came off VHS tape and you edited it, it obviously made it even worse quality picture than it originally was. And this thing I did use quite a bit. This is your silicon chip infrared remote extender. So I think it just goes over a 2-pair wire, infrared LED. What does it actually hook into? Look, the old rubber feet have come off. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was the LED went down the line. That's what I'm thinking. That's the LED, but it's got a photo diode in the front. So I used to use this up in the house with the remote control and have a satellite television unit down out in the paddock, basically next to a shed. And I could swap the channels, and it came up this, I don't know, quite a long, be well over 50 meters, I guess, of coax cable, so it wasn't the best quality picture by the time it got to the house. But yeah, so you just had this sitting on top of the TV or whatever, aimed your remote at it, you got a little photo diode there, and I think I actually used a pair of an old phone cable I had already between the house and the shed, and yeah, just had a pair, and down at the other end you just put in, I think, a couple of wires came out, hooked it up to a infrared LED that you put facing the equipment, much like the modern ones where you get a little stick-on unit to stick on the front. This is like a really early version. I'm not sure if the commercial ones may have been available then, but they were nothing like the cheaper ones. Later on you just buy one off the shelf, you wouldn't even think about making one, but this would have been very early 90s. I think I built this thing as soon as it came out because I had a use for it. I'll have to see what magazine it was in. Yeah, I think there used to be an LED to go with it somewhere, but that's probably long gone. It's been chopped off its cable. Oh, it looks like 1994. I lie. I've actually put when I made it. Sounds a bit later than I remember. 94. That does seem rather late, but I definitely had the satellite system earlier than that, so I thought this came out around the time that I got the satellite system, the old OzSat one. So it's got a trim pod, a few chips. An SL486, not sure what that first chip is, but that must be something to do with the receiving the signal, I guess. And yeah, I don't know what they did with it. I've been interested to have a look at the article in the magazine. Seems like a lot of processing. You think you just have to amplify the signal or something, but who knows? I guess it must have if it just fed an LED, which remodulated the same thing this received. Oops, I don't know, is it come on the right way or not? Seems a bit, no, it just doesn't really fit that well. It obviously output the same signal that went in, but just down a lot longer line of cable. Again, yeah, like I say, it would have been over 50 meters, I think. But that worked rather well for a remote extender. I mean, probably only designed really to go a couple of rooms across the house type of thing. And this one of those multi-voltage power packs I was looking for the other day with the big OK written on it. I'm not sure if I can... Oh, of course it doesn't have a plug on the end and it's disconnected anyway. It's probably not much point having that actually connected to this anymore. I could use it on that label maker and see if it'll run that better. It's a bit of a grotty old one, but oh, at least I found one of those. What's the next thing on top here? Oh, it's lost its label. I think that was a Dick Smith digital or logic probe. God, the switch is seized up, I think. Ugh. Wow. I think that's had some water or something in there. There has been in a shed that sort of gets a bit of moist air and stuff in it. Not actual moisture, but that has seen better days. I wonder if the label's still in there. Got a couple of connections there. Just for showing logic status. I think this is a commercial one. I think it was the same thing, or is it an injector? This is a Micronta, so Tandy. Digital Logic Pro. So I think I got this one later. This I bought second hand off a guy, I think. 15 volts DC max. So what do we got? We've got a probe and earth to the circuit. And that must be your voltage. And what on earth is that thing? Does that go on the... Oh, it goes on the front there. Oh, isn't that neat? So it's got a probe, well, I guess anti-stab device or whatever, so you don't hurt yourself with it. High, low and pulse. CMOS and TTL level. There's a catalogue number. I can probably look up when this was. LED, high, low, pulse and beep. So maybe it's got a beeper in it somewhere. That other one, yeah, that's got a hole, but whether there's actually something in there. LED off, LED on, blinking LED, no beep, high tone, low tone, tone, made in Taiwan, 10 megahertz. So it's probably showing what it does on different, so open circuit, nothing. Logic 1, you naturally get the high. Logic O, you get the low. A square wave. Looks like both of them come on, plus the yellow pulse LED, or it blinks. And then exactly what sort of signal that is, I'm not sure, but you get a high, or maybe it's a high level with some sort of pulses on it, or a low level with pulses. So I guess it stays low and just puts up a quick pulse. So you get the low coming on and the pulse. Been a long time since I touched any of that stuff, so I'm pretty rusty on the whole thing. I didn't do a lot of digital circuit stuff, and when I did it was often just with an oscilloscope. You'd be checking keyboard lines or something, see if there's just data or clock or whatever there, and if not, find out what was faulty or whatever. I did have to fix a few computer terminals and stuff that actually had logic board faults, usually from lightning strikes or something, and when you get some sort of induced voltage up the keyboard line or something and blow whatever TTL chip they went into. I know I had to fix one in a hurry for them for a paging place one day, and I managed to had some old logic boards lying around and found whatever TTL chip it was, a 74LS something, and managed to fix it overnight with a second hand when I pulled off a multi-layer board or something, which was a pain. But there's two other LEDs there. So one sort of shows through. I don't know what the other one is, but it's a ZA1447, so it would be a Dick Smith. Oh man, this has definitely had something leak on it. DSE copyright 1994, I think that says. That is in poor condition. I don't know what got on that. Maybe a leaked battery or something out of something else. But that switch is seized and there's quite a bit of corrosion, so that needs a bit of a rebuild, I think. But yeah, kind of cool. They made these little probe cases you could get for kits and stuff. I think they were another Dick Smith thing you could buy just off the shelf, these little yellow probe cases. Is that going to go back together? Was there anything in there? I don't think there was. It's probably so you can add a switch on the side or a push button or something. But yeah, that's seen better days, poor thing. Oh, the long ones there, that'll be right. Nothing worse than putting the screw in the wrong hole and then it won't come out again. But yeah, I didn't use logic probes very often. and you could get a logic like injector, I think, like it would put in a signal, high or low or pulse, square wave or whatever, so you could actually try and force chips and stuff to change states if you injected something on their inputs, and you can monitor the output with one of these and see if whatever gate was in there or whatever did its job. That didn't go back in right. No, it'll do. So yeah, a couple of other things to play with there. I always thought they might be handy again one day. And that's a JCAR kit. I think this was actually off a bunch of kits. I bought out some stuff off a guy that shut down a business, and I've still got some, I think in a drawer somewhere, some kits that were never built. And these are actually quite good for, you could discharge your batteries down, I think it did it to a certain level or something, to try and rejuvenate NICADs with a memory, I think was the idea of this thing. I can't see what else you would use it for. Not a lot to see there. It's all on top of the board, some little chip, rotary switch. Not a lot else. There's a transistor screwed to the front panel to heatsink it, I guess. 5-watt resistor. So it's kind of like an adjustable dummy load, I think, basically. Which was another thing I had half built. I think an ETI one. I never got that finished. I think I ended up throwing it in the scrap metal in the end. But they did make a big adjustable dummy load with some big transistors and stuff that would... You could vary how much current it pulled out of something, like same sort of thing they use for testing alternators and stuff in cars, except that's a great big resistor or something. What do they call it? A pile or something. Carbon pile or something. But yeah, I think this actually did work reasonably well on old NICADs, but of course once NICADs started going, they tended to never come back because they were fairly junky things. Actually, I see the complement there for the probe. Is this yeah, logic pulsar overload out? Oh yeah, it must be a one-shot pulse or a continuous chain of pulses. Output wave 5 microsecond, a pulse of 5 microsecond length, or in continuous mode 5 hertz, so a fairly slow pulse rate. Standby overpower, so I'm not sure how is that for when the input voltage you put into it. Source and sink, so oh yeah, so maybe it's something's pulling too much current out of it, pulling the signal down or something. I forgot there was actually another complement to the other one. I think that came from another repairer up north who died. I bought some of his test gear, a lot of parts and stuff, and a few faulty electronic devices when he had to shut down business due to ill health, unfortunately. And this is a Xenodiode tester. I wondered if I still had this, because I was thinking about it the other day when I was messing... Oh, it was that amplifier. That Xeon or whatever it was amplifier. I wanted to check the Xeno, and there is the Xeno tester. It still exists. So this is another Dick Smith kit, 3051. So it's a proper one. I don't know what's happened to the paint, but something in this box must have leaked, and we've had a leaky battery or something get on things. Ah, speak of the devil, this I thought this was one I'd build. That's the old Reptron, made in Hong Kong. But I've actually written in here built by Ray Waller, who is the guy that I would have got those probes off, I think. And I've got a power supply off him, and there's a Heathkit microprocessor trainer thing with the old 6800 micro, I think, in it. So he must have actually built this thing. I don't remember buying that off him. I actually thought I'd built that myself, but that must have been, that was in the early 90s sometime. Yeah, poor old Ray went over to Japan during World War II, after they dropped the bombs, and supposedly died of something relating to the nuclear fallout from that. He was a lovely guy too. So that was, yeah, back in, I can't remember what year that was. Would have been around 93, 94, I think. I went up there. He was up at St Mary's in Tasmania, and yeah, unfortunately he had to retire, and I think he was dead not too much longer, poor guy, of cancer or something horrible. Oh, well, at least I wrote that in there, so that's a little bit of a tribute to him. That, I think, was a capacitance meter I made Electronics Australia 85 CMB9. And the rest of it's probably in here. For some reason I gutted it and... Oh yeah, the CMB9, that's the rest of it. I think, yeah, those boards were meant to... Yeah, well, they've been soldered together at some stage like that. I think for whatever reason, I mean, it's obviously pretty obsolete. This was a... Well, that would probably be the year, wouldn't it? 85, so that's how old the design was. Has it got a 74C? Yeah, 926, that a 4-digit display driver chip. They used to cost a fortune, those things. Well, it seemed like a fortune at the time when you're a young hobbyist. And they were really good because everything was in there, and I think they possibly multiplex the display and everything. Well, you can tell because, yeah, they're all wired together. You can see the same segments on each display go through these zigzaggy lines. So they're all wired together, and that chip basically pulses everything really fast and makes the display come up without having to switch every single segment independently type of thing. It just switches the whole rows, and then you've got, should be 4 transistors, which would be those 4. They switch the, I don't know if these are common cathode or anode. I think these are common cathode displays, the FND 500s or something. And it then pulses each display on and off, kind of like a TV scanning or something. It does it, flashes all these little LED segments are flashing on and off really fast. Either, you know, it lights up all the A segments but only switches on digit 1, and then it switches on digit 2 and might light segment B or something. So they're kind of scanned super fast so that the eye persistence of our vision just sees it as constantly on. But I mean, looking at that, if I can find out what voltage it ran on, I could easily hook that would have been the transformer there, easily hook that up and get it going again. I did use that a bit way back in the day, I think. That was one of my early bits of test equipment. But I ended up getting a multimeter with that, and for electronics repairs and ESR meters, all you really need, very rare you measure capacitance, but occasionally you'd get an open circuit, like polyester cap or something. And this I got from somewhere, I think this is the Talking Electronics. Oh, what do we got here? Is that the one? Yeah, TE. Book 2, it even tells you. Yeah, Logic Designer. So this was just a bunch of little logic circuits, I think, like a display with a 4026 chip, which I think... What went into that? Was it binary or just... I think you could just pulse it. You didn't need a binary input. Yeah, clock, carry, reset, carry out. Then we've got a binary counter, so that'd be a 40... Oh, it's not a 4017, it's a 4024. Of course, binary counter rather than 4017 is a decimal one, isn't it? A couple of NE 555, one shot. I think that's another oscillator, transistor tester built onto it. 4 buffered LEDs. Geez, they're those funny little white LEDs too. I found this somewhere, someone else built this one. And it's got, what do we got here? An ETI 630, I've written December 1976, must have been, it's a hex display. Which again looks like, I don't think I ever built that, I got it from somewhere, I must have pulled it out of something. Probably some old bit of computer gear. Or was it already attached? Maybe someone had already attached it here. Yeah, I'm not sure if I added that on there or someone else did, but I get a feeling I got that out of something else. But I did have a quick play around with this, I think, and I was always meaning to get back and have more of a play around. It was more of a trainer for people learning electronics and school kids and stuff. It was quite a clever little unit for a bit of digital stuff. Like most of Talking Electronics stuff, old Colony did, he or his team designed some good stuff for learning basic electronics back in the day. So it's a, I think hexadecimal display. Inputs to ground. The fact I labelled everything makes me suspect I may have hooked that up at some point. So it's onto the power, and then it's coming out of the binary output, so it converts binary to hexadecimal, I think. So that adds your, what is it, your lettering in on top of the well, I guess it's numbers then letters, isn't it? Up to 16 or something. Well, that's what the hex is for, I think. And that's an M2851. That was a very common little transformer made in Taiwan. Doesn't say who sold it. Dick Smith, Ultronics, JK, one of them. But an interesting little device. And then I noticed this in there the other day too. What on earth? Is this an experimented deck? Oh, it is another Talking Electronics. Again, I think I scored this from somewhere. Pretty sure I didn't build it myself. Oh, here we go. It tells you a bit about it. Switch to non-recycling, set oscillator slower speed. Because I bought a lot of bits and pieces off people and tended to end up being given electronic junk from people and stuff, so I don't know where half this stuff came from. But I always like them. Whenever I see an electronic kit, I always tend to grab it and keep it. That switch is broken off. Looks like it's had a bit of a hard life. Digi Chase, it says. I don't know. It's still not a 4017, I think. 4015, 4049. What on earth is that? Almost looks like a RAM chip or something. A 2102. 4024. So that'd be an interesting one to dig out. I've probably got the Talking Electronics magazine still that explains what that is. Oh, there's what I was after. That's what I actually dug this out for. And it does have a weird display. I think that came out of some sort of telephone. So obviously, I think that's a 6-digit. And I found you could use it as a 4-digit. But I think I made this circuit board in TAFE when I was still there. So it's an ETI 161. Made the circuit board, and I think it was years later I scored the 7106 or whatever IC from somewhere, which was I think about $20 worth of cost back then. That's got a bit of corrosion too. This board probably hasn't even been coated. And then there was some weird, I think they were actually ex-telecom phones with a weird bit underneath that I pulled the display out of, and that was another 20 bucks or something back then, I think. I'll have to look up the prices. But it wasn't a cheap thing to build. I didn't really have that much of a use for it, I don't think either, but these were like a universal panel meter you could use depending how you set the inputs to measure voltage or current, or in things like, I think they might have made some kits or designs with like frequency counters based on this with another input board, or capacitance meters, that sort of thing. Maybe even a little multimeter or whatever. But that's what I mainly wanted to find. But yeah, that's a pretty horrible old display, but I just noticed there are some other displays here I think that I got later and probably never got around to putting in there. Although that's more of like a multimeter display. There's a electric microphone in there, and that's another Dick Smith H2753 made in Hong Kong zippy box. Would have bought quite a few of them over the years, but that looks like a new display. Can't really see how many digits, but that looks, yeah, it's the right length. I'm not sure where that came from, but I must have scored a good one somewhere along the line. So I can probably replace that horrible old sun faded by the look of that one. And we've got another something or other. It's a counter, 74C926. Who made this? It isn't it? That's another Talking Electronics. And again, I think, do the boards fit? Oh no, they fit together with the wiring. There is no... Oh, there's an edge connector. I wonder if that's just the input. I don't think I ever built that. Someone's chopped the end off that chip. They must have broke the pin off or something. I might have even done that. Can't remember if I ever built that myself or not, but I threw out most of the little kits I'd built from Dick Smith and stuff. But yeah, the Talking Electronics ones are a bit more fun. That was whatever the last thing I made. I think it was I think that might have been a Knight Rider type scanner. That I think it was 2 colours, because they're 2 colour LEDs. I think it went red one way and green the other. And it's all starting to fall to bits because it's been moved around so much, the wires are getting metal fatigue. But yeah, it's a 4017. So I think it's just a 4017 that counted up. There's a 555 there. I'm not sure if that's part of it as well. The 4069. But that was the old breadboard. This one I think came from Tandy years and years ago. Doesn't have anything written on it. Or does it? It's got lettering. I just seem to remember having purchased it from Tandy. Possibly it would have been that or Dick Smith, I guess, back in those days. But man, it is dusty, and I doubt the contacts will be much good in it anymore, but you never know. But there seems to be no connection between that chip and that one anymore. Yeah, so there's a couple of LEDs down here. Looks like some old Two pair phone wiring. You've got your white, blue, red and black. So that was a good thing to chop up and make little jumper leads out of. Not sure how the signal, they're not even, that's usually, those ones are all joined together, they're meant to be the voltage rails, so those resistors are just stuck in there for the hell of it. Capacitor floating in the air, which has probably been pulled out. And yeah, no idea what's actually going on. There's a red wire hanging out there and a black one, so they probably went into the rails, or yeah, in pin, usually pin 7 and or 8. What's it got? 8 and 16, that would be the power rails. But there must have been a little oscillator here of some sort. Maybe that's the output. I can't remember which pin on a 555 is the output. But yeah, that's been, hasn't been used in a long time. I can't remember what I was trying to do there or when, but obviously I made some little project up, maybe just for the fun of it. Can't remember if there's a particular reason for that, making that one. And it looks like, oh, we've got an instruction book for the logic probe. Using it, digital troubleshooting, dynamic gate analysis. Gate may appear functional when observed statically, but may fail under actual circuit operation. Oh, when you pulse it. Inverter gate change a negative pulse to a positive pulse. Also, maybe yeah, when the inverter's fed with a bit of a signal, it may fail. Yeah, so a little bit of info there. Dynamic and static testing. In case of problems. Radio Shack limited warranty. I guess we haven't printed in Taiwan. I haven't got a date on this, I guess. I don't think they really put dates on their stuff. 90-day warranty. This has actually got Canada and USA. It does have Australia on here. Kurrajong Avenue, Mount Druitt, New South Wales, Belgium, UK, France. Bit of a tangle. Well, we've got a microphone. Never really used one other than for testing things. Okay, that just goes through that. That's a Daiichi, or however you say that. It's really got a 1 in the middle, so that probably come from Wagner Electronics, that one. Just a standard sort of 600 ohm. Here's an old, probably unbranded, made in Japan. That's an RF modulator. Comes out on channel 1 or 2. It's got a 5-pin DIN connector, so was that a Commodore 64 or something used that? So it would add power and possibly at least video and maybe audio as well. Looks like one of those kind of things, but whether it was used on a computer or something, it's just a case with one of those little small circuit board modulators in it by the look of it. I have no idea what this came from, but they were a handy thing to keep. Is why I kept it. Let's see if it's actually an audio and video one or just a video one. Oh, it's a proper larger size one. So it's basically just one of those ones, a Mitsumi. So you've got the tags for, you just mounted them on a circuit board with a few links. Yeah, we've got video and audio labelled positive. I guess the other ones, oh, that's the channel. So it must hook, oh yeah, so there's a positive comes in, they then switch positive to another pin to change the channel. Ground is negative. Just one of those things I probably kept because I thought, well, that'll be handy one day. Because the video modulators could be handy. Turn video and audio into an RF signal. Pretty standard bit of kit. And something that used to be handy, like back in the 80s and stuff, a lot more. So you tended to hang on to them once you get in the habit of keeping things. I think this is a, yeah, like a circuit board drill. So you can still got a little circuit board drill in it. Taurus, high speed mini drill and grind AC adapter or car battery supply. 12 to 35 volts, 1.5 to 2 amps. Taurus mini drill. I don't know if that ever got a lot of use, but I did have like someone gave me an old little mini drill press. I was going to mount that in. It was partly broken and I don't think I ever got around to fixing it, so it probably got chucked into the scrap metal eventually. But there's a little grinder wheel and some different collets, a little spanner thing by the look of it to undo it, and then comes with a lead to hook it up to whatever. I don't think that ever got a lot of use. That's possibly a Dick Smith catalogue number or something there. Can't remember where I got that from, but mini tools box, very dusty and dirty like the rest of this stuff because it's just been sitting around for years, untouched. Oh, what have we got here? I didn't even know I had that. Is that an actual? It doesn't look like it's ever been built, or maybe I just kept the. I reckon I just kept the zippy box. Made in West Australia. I think they did make these boxes in Australia there for a while. Come to think of it, I seem to remember hearing something about that, but I reckon I've just kept that. Might have been an old kit I got off a guy. I had some kits boxed up that I bought for next to nothing, and I probably either threw the components or kept them, chopped them up, chopped the packets open and threw them into transistors and caps and stuff, and just kept the box. So that's just really just an empty zippy box. And there's another one here which someone's nicely put tape all over, so that's probably made a bit of a mess of the panel. That's another made in Australia. Never used, that's probably one I've bought, or maybe I picked it up second hand somewhere. And oh yeah, these. Batch of made in Germany, like little counters, mechanical counters. I've got a diode here, so I assume that would be the coil. This looks kind of like it's telephone or something equipment. And that's where the wires go, plus there's a brown wire there, but that's the only thing that's connected up. I wonder how many volts they operate on. If they're telephone, they'll be up around 50 volts or something, 48. And we've got 12 volts. So that would be the negative, otherwise we're going to get the diode conducting. Clip leads never seem to work. Nothing. I reckon it is telephone then. Still nothing. I've got the output on. Oh, I haven't got the load on. That would be the bloody problem. That would be the issue. Oh yeah. Let's go down. Touching here. It's even at 12 volts, that's clicking over. I have no idea what I pulled them out of. Assuming it was even me that pulled them out of something, but looks like the sort of thing I'd salvage out of some bit of old gear. Yeah, reset doesn't work too well, but I'm given it probably hasn't been pressed in 20-30 years. It's not surprising. Yeah, I don't know what I could really use them for. I obviously thought they might have been handy for something one day, if I bothered to keep them. Oh, that's the other half of that infrared remote extender. I just used a little plastic box. Obviously it was used for something else once upon a time, so I've covered that hole up in it. And it's rather dusty and horrible. That would have been sitting in the shed with the LED and just the two wires in. So that was the other half of that extender, but it's just, yeah, it's just an LED, and I've put a terminal block in there to connect to it, so it's nothing very exciting. We've got a 12 volt adapter for something. It's got an on-off switch on it. Looks brand new. I don't know what the hell that was off. Probably something I've got lying around somewhere. A piece of old circuit board I still got left. That probably wants thrown in the rubbish. I think that was like a Dick Smith piece or something. God, that would go way, way back. I'm not sure if I even bought more than one piece of this over the years. I know you can see how many boards have been cut out of it. A few ones I probably did the old hard way with the Dalo pen and some ferric chloride. But I sort of kept that thinking I might want it one day. That was a spare globe for one of those. Yeah, I think, yeah, for the hand lantern. 4.75 volt rather than the 6 volt used in a lot of things. One of those ever ready, or like a larger version of the Dolphin torch, sat on a massive big super expensive battery, and they had a little red light on one end and this floodlight on the other end, but I used to just stick a 6 volt, not sure, about 4 ampere hour I think, lead acid battery on them, which cost virtually nothing. You just tape that onto underneath them and you could charge it up whenever you wanted, and rather than paying what was probably $30-40 or something for the proper battery for them, which the old dry cell thing, I forget what the battery was called, but they were a massive thing. But I think I got rid of the lantern, but I might still have one somewhere. That was just a spare I kept, I think, out of an old one. Oh, here's another talking electronics kit. That was the frequency counter, I think. It's got high, medium, low there. Yeah, that trim pot's seen better days. Again, I don't think I built that. Yeah, mini frequency counter. That was on the cover of one of the things. God, even the LEDs have been hit so hard they've cracked the board. So some of this stuff's had a rough life, but that might have been like that when I got it. More corrosion on the chip. I don't know what got in there, but that's really annoying. Yeah, a lot of these LEDs have been squashed, but that'll be another good little one just to get going. That was an interesting little project, but I don't know, they might have had the circuit board on the front of something. Oh, those ones LEDs busted off, the rest are loose. So that's going to need a bit of work. Bit of an antiquity. Oh, I know what that is. That was my parents' XF Falcon, probably the only part I got left of it. Ford Falcon, and that was the clock out of it that I saved, VDO. Positive, negative, battery, ignition and ground, because yeah, I think it would keep time, but no, because it's a fluorescent display, it wouldn't run when the ignition was off, but the battery signal would keep the memory up to it. And for some reason I kept that. I probably thought, oh, that'd be a handy, I think I might have been going to put it in my old ute, old Subaru Brumby paddock basher, because that kind of needed a clock in it. So maybe I was thinking to put it in there, but it's a fluorescent display type thing. I don't think this plastic comes off easily. Part of it does, but I won't risk breaking that off. But yeah, that's from I think about a 1986-87 Ford Falcon. The rest of it just was pretty rusted out, the stuff in the end of the body from sitting outside when it was only a second car, so that basically went almost complete to the scrapyard and got crushed up. Besides a few bits I saved. Here's another little drill, Bolgin. It's another handy little drill, or it's got a little locking switch. Drill or grinder type thing that you could hook up to 12 volts or whatever. And here's another. I mean, what was this out of? Vida Root, New Addington, Surrey, made in Great Britain. And that's another odometer type thing, but I think that came out of some oddball bit of old scientific gear. It's got quite a few digits on it. Certainly a fancy little piece. They don't make stuff like that anymore. But I probably kept it thinking I might use that for something. Beautiful bit of old gear, but yeah, not a lot of use these days, I guess. Another circuit board, which is an 87 RG1, some sort of Electronics Australia. I wonder if that was the electronic rain gauge. 3 displays on it. Wouldn't have been many things with 3 displays. I think that was another 74C926 or whatever they were. I think it was. I was always going to build their electronic rain gauge, and again, something that never happened. And yet another counter of some sort. I was obviously thinking I might use these for something. Looks like Heng something, probably made in Germany again. Nice sort of, I don't know if that's die cast or steel, I reckon it's die cast case. 52 ohms, Hengstler. Definitely sounds German. Oh, it says on the front here, Hengstler 400. And again, we've got a diode across, some old European looking diode. I guess if we put the positive there, we should be able to click that one over as well. that still works nicely. Again, another nice bit of old gear, but I don't know what I'll ever use that for. And a roll of fuse wire, 25 amp, that would have been the old power circuit stuff used in the old switchboards. Also it's quite good for using this tin copper wire, which might be why I kept it, because it is basically just a tin piece of copper wire. That would go in the old ceramic fuses, the old Federal, I think they were, brand. We used to have a switchboard in the house that still use those. I think even my shop, did my shop still use them? I can't remember. I think it might have, or it might have been upgraded to circuit breakers. I can't remember now, but it was still something you'd use occasionally back in the 90s and stuff. And I've got a crystal tester. That was a little homemade job. I won't even bother opening that. I think that was out of Electronics Australia or something as well. A bag of LEDs, 74. I think there were some red ones as well. I think I was going to try and fix some of the Sony cassette players. A friend I used to help him fix some, and they came from like one of these hearing book places for sight impaired people, and they had tons of them, and the VU meters in them used to fail, and they had little surface mount, tiny little LED modules in them, and they used to cost quite a lot of money to replace, and they tended to fail in them and lose segments. So I was actually thinking, I think I actually got one and pulled it apart and drilled something through. I think you actually had to hardwire these. You could drill the plastic part on the front or something and could hardwire these to the circuit board in place of the old ones. And I actually seriously thought about doing some, but I don't know if we ever got round to doing that or never bothered. But that was another one of those sort of projects. I think that bag of LEDs was salvaged. I don't know where I got so many from, but they were salvaged out of something, and I had some red ones, and I was thinking of doing that, fixing the VU meters with them. This is an 83 VA, which I think is because it's a VA is video amplifier. This was I think, did it have like an inverted and standard output or something? You put normal like video level in there. It doesn't have a pot or anything to adjust it that I can see, unless that was hooked, maybe that was hooked up to these pins. I know I built a couple of those. I did use one for a couple of things, I think running some old computer type monitors on like closed circuit TV or something. I probably kept it thinking that might be handy again one day, but I think I did make a couple of them, and that's one of them. It doesn't look like this one's ever actually had anything soldered to it, so I must have built the kit. I think I would have made the circuit board myself and probably never got around to even using it. That's actually got Phillips capacitors in it. Interesting. And then we've got another, I think that was that a motor speed control? Yeah, that was to go with that mini drill, I think. So you could adjust the speed from 1994 seems to be a popular year for making kits. Probably about the last time I really did many. Yeah, so that was just design, drill speed controller, silicon chip, first 94. And it has been soldered to, so maybe not on the other pins. So I probably tried it out and in the original Dick Smith kit bag, I guess. Never got around to doing much with that, I don't think either, because I sort of never got around to making any more circuit boards. And another zippy box, looks like the same as that other one with the same bit of tape on it. Yeah, made in Australia, still got the brand new screws in there, at least the other side of the aluminium looks quite nice in there. Interestingly, it's got fingerprints on it, which I didn't just put on there. So I must have them from new. And we have an LED digital meter. I forget, I think that came in a pile of stuff I bought. Don't know if I've ever actually tried it out, because I don't know if I've even got the connections for it. I thought it used to have a label. Oh, wait, here's a label. Maybe it tells you. Oh, here we go. Man, it's got a lot of connections. This is an upper and lower double-sided board, a Daytel. Mansfield, Massachusetts, is it? USA? Underscale, overscale out. Yeah, we've got a 5-volt display enable, decimal point common, display test, that would make all the segments light up. Reference analog ground. Decimal point, oh yes, it shows like for 4 digit. Oh, so it's 5-digit, is it? It's a 5-digit display in there. Oh yeah, I think it's a, oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5 digits. That's kind of, that probably would have cost a fortune back in its day. Busy, done out, strobe out, run, hold in, polarity out, decimal point, different positions, analog high end, analog low end, digit drive out. Something about lowest, what's not lowest common denominator, LSD, MSD, most significant digit, least significant digit, that's what that is. Power common, minus 5 volt power out. I guess I've got to find some tape and stick that to that. And that was, I think that was another Ray Waller's thing. That was all the bits that came, I think, with that Heathkit computer trainer. I'm not sure if they're definitely related to it, but I think they came with that. Got a chip in here. SC44074. It's a Motorola, so it could be related to that. And they're probably spare buttons for it. You know, they've got numbers on them. I think that's related to that Heathkit thing. I must dig that out one day. I was always going to, again, have a play with it one day and try and learn a bit about microprocessors using it, but again, it got put on the back burner. I've got some El Salvador and Korean chips and general 74LS type stuff. That's an 8014 or something. I guess I should probably put that chip in, though it's not static proof by the look of it. L8037, another Motorola. So I've never really looked at those, I just kept them because they supposedly went with that thing. So I guess I should put them with the rest of that wherever it is, if I can find it. Oh yeah, the old glass syringe that I was going to use for that plastic welding glue. I think that was ex-hospital stuff I found at the scrap metal. And of course you can't use plastic syringes with plastic glue because that's what it glues. So there were a few of these. There's another one. So I remember the plastic place had them in glass syringes, so I kept an eye out for those and got a couple, but never got around to getting the glue. I don't think so. Oh yeah, what was this little kit? They were little Tandy LEDs, I think. It was a battery monitor or something. ETI 320, I'll have to look up what that is. I think that might have just been like a car battery voltage monitor or something. Green was 12 volts and it was higher or lower or something. I completely forgot I ever built that. I think these were for testing computer terminals. That would have been the parallel port. I think it was out of some sort of test kit. Yeah, something's definitely been in the bottom of that. I think they just loop back things or whatever. Yeah, computer terminal. This was the, did they call it a loop back or whatever? It just simply fed the output data out back into data in or whatever, so you could actually type on the keyboard and a dumb terminal would talk to itself and put up the characters that you typed. What on earth it got in there? Some bit of paper or something. But that's what I used to use it on wires terminals. Wires 60s or 50s or something they were, that I used to fix for a paging place. And that you just plugged it in, at least you could see if the terminal was sort of responsive. I think these did something similar for testing serial ports and parallel ports on computers. And that's probably like your RS-232. So there's some old relics of the past. And that, I think, is a multi-turn pot. And what did I have those for? There was something... Yeah, it's like a 10-turn, I think. I think there was a little kit we built, some sort of amateur radio receiver or something, and that was useful for that, but they're kind of a handy thing to have. I'll have to put that with the pot somewhere. A mounting kit for some. It's actually got a diode in there as well. Almost like a smoke detector or something, but why would it have a 1N400 something in there? Got a piece of Vero board, rather corroded now. So that could probably go in the rubbish. I've got some newer stuff of that somewhere. One of these beepers. Sonalert, that's them. made in the USA, so that would have probably been pinched out of some bit of old computer gear or something. But there, I think just 12 volt. Well, I guess we can try it. They scream at you. Are we on about 12 volts? Not the loudest, so it might be a louder. Yeah, it's quite loud when you point it at you. So it's just like a, I don't know, 1 kilohertz or something beeper. And, oh yeah, that. That's a little, I think it was an Electronics Australia project. And you bought the Dick Smith kit. Oh my god, it's got a bloody reefer cap in it. That's not a good idea. Oh, so you used an old fluorescent light starter, and these were just like a blink, non-blinking version. I can't believe they used a reefer. The worst thing you could put near 240 volts. It's actually disconnected itself while I do it too, so that's obviously got hit by something and broke that off. But I did use that somewhere. I think it might have been the old bathroom light we had, and it saved that blink, blink, blinkety blink thing when you turn the light on. Just would go straight on, basically a single sort of fire. So they were actually quite a useful little kit to build up back in the day. And yeah, that label, what does it say? This fluorescent starter kit will not operate with the new slimline tubes. That's right, it only worked with the old 20 or 40 watt ones. Currently on the market due to higher start-in currents required. To be used only with the standard 20 or 40 watt tubes. And that's not off that. Oh, that came off the front of that, one of those counters, I think. I think that might have been on that, was it? No, maybe not. Close. Well, it's ripped off the front of something. Oh, was it this British one, maybe? They definitely had something glued on it, so maybe they covered one of the digits up there. It looks like it came off that. Huh. Interestingly, it revealed an extra digit I didn't know was there, because I think that was glued on it in the past. Oh, well, there you go. Some old pen. Painted gold filled. Ever sharp. I think it's one. Is it a pencil or a pen? I can't remember now. It must be a pencil if it's ever sharp, I guess. I think you put little leads in there. Can't remember where that came from. Don't know if it was my dad's old one or it was a gift from someone or what, but that's an interesting old thing. And a random piece, I think that was off a Vauxhall hubcap. I think they were originally silver plated or something, but this was off some old one and the silver plating had gone. I could be wrong about that, maybe they were brass, but there was a second one of these, I think, which may have been silver. And I think I might have actually gone through over all those little edges with a fine marker pen to make it stand out a bit more. But not sure what era car that's off, but that would have been back when I was a school kid somewhere. I think I found a couple of discarded hubcaps somewhere and salvaged the central bits of it. I probably should have kept the whole things. There probably were something now, like a lot of those old hubcaps back then. And the rest of this thing's just full of ICs. So that's a whole lot of CMOS ICs. Some of these are probably new. There's a heap of 4017s. I get a feeling they were brand new, and some of these might have been pulled out of things. Another 4017, there's a ton of them. 4013, MC1488. I think they were a what were they, some sort of parallel port buffers or something, some sort of comms chip in. 1489, I think that's what they were. 4017 again, 4070s, 4052s. I think all of these were actually new ICs that I purchased rather than things I salvaged. I don't really want to pull them out of the static thing there. Or they may have been used in kits and stuff and salvaged. And there's some more here. Oh my god, there's actually some EEPROMs or something. Why would I have kept those? 27128, 27256. I have no idea. Maybe they were just stuck on the back of some useful chips and I never bothered to remove them. There's 74C and more 4074C14. They were fairly common chip in little electronic projects out of magazines. And we've got something that's escaped, and thankfully it's an LM chip. LM13600, that sounds familiar, but I can't remember what it was. That's been leaked on by whatever's damaged the other stuff in there, so I think that's probably dead, and the markings are gone off it, so that can go in the rubbish. And that might be where that other chip is. Oh, here they are, LM13600. There's a few of them. I think that might have come from good old George Harvey Electric when they still existed. I seem to remember they had a lot of stuff for sale, and I bought some odds and sods like that. I think they were used in some sort of electronic project, I think, at the time, but what it was, I don't know. Are they opto-couplers? I think they are. And it looks like the proper old 4N25s and stuff. Not all these random ones you get in equipment these days. I think those you could buy from Dick Smith or Tandy or somewhere. Dust and stuff everywhere. We've got a bunch of LEDs and other chips. 4022. 4022. Sure, they're not all 4022s. 4022. 4013. I don't have no idea what they're all for, but they again look like ones that might have been purchased from Dick Smith or somewhere. I'm surprised I kept all this. I thought I'd thrown all this stuff out. Old National Semiconductor Corporation. 90 cents. Made in one of these following places all over the world. Basically the exact country of origin is unknown. I wonder if they are actually what that says on there. Doubt it. Probably shouldn't really take them out, but what do we got? An LM324. Definitely not what it says on there. LM324, it looks like it's full of LM324s, whatever they are. Were they a op-amp or something? Quad comparator or one of those kind of, they sound familiar as well. I wouldn't have kept them in unless I thought they were useful for something, I guess. And they're all 7.4 LS chips, as it says on there. What do we got here? AD 7520s. And some other 40 something, I think. There's a lot of AD 7520s, MC 1408. And a Fairchild 4526 LM723. That was a power supply regulator, I think. Or at least controlled higher power transistors. Yeah, 4076 or something, so God knows. Ooh, that says TV ICs though. I don't think there's any TV ICs in there. 4024s. CA3140, I think it's an op-amp. 4066, 4066. They were switches or something, 4093, so it's some other stuff I thought I might use one day. And the last lot. Oh, we've got more EEPROMs maybe. 4040s. Yeah, all 40 series, I think, the little ones. It's a 45 something there. 4528, was that a CMOS chip? M256 something, no idea what that is. And that, is that one of those microprocessors or something? A D8749 from NEC, no idea. I did have some one-piece like Motorola single chip microprocessors in the big packs like that, but the early ones, but I must have got rid of those. And that is a D2732, so I think they are EEPROMs. Veloz Stat by 3M, electrically conductive hinge container. And that's it. Besides one electrolytic capacitor that might have fallen off that breadboard or something, which can go in the rubbish. So that's a whole lot of useless junk, but I guess I better get these ICs and stuff organised somewhere better. I'm surprised they're not in with my other semiconductors, but They got separated for some reason. And yeah, that might look good stuck on the wall of the shed somewhere. And at least I know what the hell's in that container now. So these things, like, once I've got some more of these somewhere, I think they can go in with buzzers and stuff. They can go in with pots. But I would like to get that up and running. It's got 5 volt power in, power common. Do we need a minus 5 volt in? I don't think we do. We've got minus 5 volt out though. But yeah, almost needs a proper edge connector to safely connect to that. I guess you can. The other thing like people used to do is just solder to them. It's got some sort of multi-term pot to adjust it, and it looks like it does 2 volt maximum. So it's like those LCD displays that read like 2 volts at full scale type of things. That'd be interesting to see if that actually works, because I've got no idea where it came from. But I'm sure it came in some pile of junk I got somewhere. But anyway, thanks for watching.